out in the hills of California this morning. Today I decided to take the bikes out. It's been a while since I've ridden them, and I thought it would be a good idea to get them out. The weather is great. If you notice, the skies are very gray, very cloudy. The air is very brisk and cool. It's pretty ideal for a motorcycle. If you're a motorcycle rider, you know this is the ideal condition. Not too cold, not extremely hot, great air temperature for the bike when it takes the air into the chamber and combusts. But I decided to get out and get the RC51 and the bike I have here. This is my Ninja 1000, not to be confused with the ZX 1000. But I'll tell you this, it's not to be confused with a Concours or an FJR or a Honda Pacifica either. This is not a sport touring bike, and nothing about it speaks Grand Tour or speaks sports tour in the sense that it's a bike that you're going to take on a long journey. Now, with that said, you can actually go on a long journey on this bike. It has a great tank range. It has a 5-gallon tank, maybe a little bit more. I've gotten 180 miles on my ride with this bike once, and you can go on long distances if that's what you desire to do. You actually can put the panniers on it that allow you to put storage and stuff on it. I've seen bikes that have that, and a lot of bikes you can do that with. I've seen that on the likes of a Ducati sport bike. So that doesn't necessarily necessitate that it is a sport touring bike. It can classify in that category only because it has a higher sitting position and the clip-ons are raised quite a bit. If you look here, these things are probably about 2.5 inches tall. So this is definitely much different than you get on something like a GSX-R 750, CBR, any of those sporting bikes, Ninja ZX. So in that respect, yeah, it's a little different. It's only when you get on this bike and ride it, do you realize this is not your dad's bike. Your dad ride this bike if he wanted to be cool, but it definitely does provide you the kind of performance you're looking for in a more performance-oriented bike. It's a lot more comfortable. I think for anybody coming off of a 600 sport bike or something of that nature, this would be pretty ideal. And I got off of the RC51 and I got on this bike. It's all just been within the last hour. And you can see kind of I'm riding out of some of the beautiful area that we have here in California. Just ideal. And you see this sign here? Yeah, baby. But anyway, I got off the RC, got on this, and immediately the difference is the sitting position. The rear sets are they're a little bit farther down. The seating position here to here is different, so you got a little bit more comfort. But you're in a pretty aggressive sitting position for the height of this bike. It's a little taller than most sport bikes, and you can definitely ride it long distance. But when you look at this bike, if you didn't know that it had the higher clip-ons, you would think it to be a hardcore sport bike. And when you twist the throttle, you will think it's a hardcore sport bike. Nothing about it at any point suggests otherwise. Compared to the RC51, off throttle, it's probably a lot quicker. I had an FJR 1300 once, and it has about the same horsepower as that. Transmission's a little different. But the way that this bike's set up, I'm talking the heads, the timing, the valves, everything about it is just a little bit more down the other side of that spectrum. Sorry. I'm videoing. It's a little bit more down that spectrum. So essentially, you know, you're going to see it do a lot better performance than you want on a bike like that. This thing will eat an FJ 1300. We're talking 300 cc's bigger. Eat it alive. My RC51, I don't know that this bike would run off and leave it long term. I think the speed might be limited by the training, but I think it's going to require the RC to really give it something to keep up with it. GSX-R 750 that I just actually sold. I haven't told you guys that. I sold the GSX-R 750. Sorry, I did. Somebody that I met who was a really avid rider, really wanted to have another go at biking. His bike had gotten stolen years ago, and so he was ready to get back on. And I was like, you know what? I've got plenty of bikes. I've had fun with that bike. I'm going to move it on. But to my point, that bike was pretty fast. And I think riding my RC today, it became evident that my RC has such a linear power curve that initial takeoff, it would run off and you'd have to really give the Gixxer a lot of input to make it keep up. But it's got so much initial. Oh my gosh, I think this thing would seriously probably run off on both of those bikes. And wheeling, forget about it. First gear, second gear, no clutch, just throttle. You take off on this thing and you twist the throttle really hard, and you don't even have to try. You just keep twisting the throttle. Eventually the front end's gonna find its way north. It's really impressive, and I'm really sort of glad I rode it today, because I kind of forgot. I haven't ridden this bike in months. I've actually got it for sale, and then I saw another bike that I'm considering. So I'm kind of at a crossroads right now. I'm kind of trying to figure out what I'm going to do. But I promised you guys a video on this bike, and unfortunately I didn't get everything prepared this morning so that I could do an on-bike video to show you how it is for me riding it. But I just wanted to show you what was going on today and give you my impression of this bike. This is a great bike. This is a freaking fantastic bike. And the more I ride it, the more I like it. One gripe, my one big gripe about it. It has a, I don't know if it's the transmission, but it has a tendency that when you close the throttle, the bike shuts down and lunges forward, kind of like a scooter. Almost if you had an electric scooter, the engine braking takes place when you close the throttle. This thing brakes really hard when you close the throttle. That's my only real gripe. Basically, if you're going to take it through the canyons and run the thing with, other sportier bikes, you're going to have to modulate that throttle closure. You're going to just have to ease into it and hold it at a certain level. So you got to be ready to go into your corner long before you get there, and that might slow your time down. But when you come out of it, it's going to be a rocket ship. It's pretty amazing. I really do like this bike. Will I keep it? I don't know. Stay tuned. All-wheel drive. Peace out, guys.